Assalamualaikum and hi, I'm Nolisa binti Amir and my friend Luqman Hakim bin Mat Nasir representing for Group 2. I would like to present about a ratio calculation of company Consortium Transnational Berhad and Perak Tansit. So here is the result calculation of all ratio, which is in profitability ratio, liquidity ratio and solvency ratio. In this part, as you can see, we show the graph of time series analysis of profitability, which is in net profit margin, return on asset and return on equity. Next, we show the graph of liquidity, which is in current ratio, quick ratio and operating cash flow. Lastly, in time series analysis of solvency, the graph show on equity ratio, debt ratio and debt to equity ratio. Moving on, the next part is about intra-company financial reporting performance analysis. First, profitability ratio. From 3 years of financial reporting, Perak Tansit record a higher net profit margin ratio compared to KTB, with the highest in 2020 with 35.2%. Then, Perak Tansit record a higher return on asset compared to KTB, with the highest in 2018 at 7%. But KTB record a higher return on equity compared to Perak Tansit, with the highest in 2019 with 269.4% through all the year. Second, liquidity ratio. From the 3 years of financial reporting, Perak Tansit record a higher current ratio compared to KTB, with the highest in 2019 with 3.15 times. Perak Tansit record a higher quick ratio compared to KTB, with the highest in 2019 with 2.41 times. Then, the operating cash flow ratio in Perak Transit record more higher than KTB, with the highest in 2019 with 1.82 times. Third, solvency ratio. From 3 years of financial reporting, Perak Tansit record a high equity ratio compared to KTB, with the highest in 2020 with 0.64 times. From 3 years of financial reporting, Perak Tansit record a lower debt ratio compared to KTB, with the lowest in 2020 with 0.36 times. From 3 years of financial reporting, Perak Tansit record a lower debt to equity ratio compared to KTB, with the lowest in 2020 with 0.55 times. In this slide is explained about potential indicator of fraudulent financial reporting. Based on the trend of the current ratio for Perak Transit, the ratio shows a decreased trend as in 2019 with 3.15 to 1.35 in 2020. There might be a potential of fraudulent financial reporting, such as embezzlement, as the current ratio of Perak Transit is decreasing because of decline in cash. Referring to the analysis of quick ratio for Consortium Transnational Berhad, you can see there is a dramatic decline from the year of 2018 to 2020. The trend of quick ratio is decreasing from 0.39 in 2018 to 0.09 in 2019 and continually decreasing to 0.07 in 2020. There might be any fraudulent financial reporting when it shows a very dramatic decline like this. When this dramatic decline occurs, it may require a closer review of the account receivable and account payable. In the case of debt equity ratio, Consortium Transnational Berhad show an expected decrease in the debt equity ratio, as it is decreasing from 5.51 in 2019 to 2.1 in 2020. Perhaps the decrease trend between 2019 and 2020 occurs because of the decrease in account payable. However, this should be investigated further in order to determine whether there is any potential fraudulent financial reporting happening in Consortium Transnational Berhad.
In operating segment, based on the segment information, Perak Transit Berhad disclosed the segment revenue from external customers that contributing more than 10% of total revenue according to MFRS 8, while KTB does not report the disclosure of external customer. Next, segment results of the Consortium Transnational Berhad (KTB) shows the company is at loss and has trouble to continue their operations compared to Perak Transit Berhad. Lastly, both of the company inter-segment transactions are entered in the ordinary course of business based on terms mutually agreed upon by the parties concerned and disclosed in financial statements. Continuing to Part B, which we will take a look at foreign operating segments and related party disclosure. In KTB and Perak Transit Berhad, The functional and presentation currency of KTB and Perak Tan Sri Berhad measured using the currency of the primary economic environment in which the entity operates. The consolidated financial statements are presented in ringgit measure, which is also the company's functional currency. While in foreign currency transactions, the transactions in foreign currencies are measured in the company's and its subsidiaries' respective functional currencies and reported in the functional currencies at exchange rate that are approximate to those ruling at the transaction date. Currency exchange reserve is used to record foreign currency exchange differences arising from translation of the financial statements of foreign operations whose functional currencies are different from that of the presentation currency of the group. MFRS 124, Related Party Disclosure, outline some transactions or economic events that are need to be disclosed in financial statements. Based on the annual report of KTB and Perak Transit Berhad, the companies have made adequate disclosure pertaining to MFRS 124. All of those disclosures are made in Board of Directors report and notes to the financial statements on the annual reports of both of the companies.